I'll let you guys put it.
Okay, so if you're ready to get started, we'll go ahead and get started. We really will not leave any laptops. And at the end of this presentation, if you would like it, then it will be emailed to you. If you would like to have it, Ms. Sue will email it to you, and you can have this presentation. This is something I just put together for our teachers at Claiborne County and our data team people that I meet with approximately every month. And this is something that even seasoned teachers may not realize everything there is to realize about TBOS. I will not stand here and say that I know everything there is to know about TBOS. I really don't know many people that do know everything there is to know about TBOS. I'm going to try to show you the highlights tonight, but of course we don't have time to do everything with it. But I'm also going to show you the new Tennessee reports. We'll look at some of those. I'm going to show you some helpful websites when you get out there in the classroom. These websites are going to be very useful to you. We'll talk some about that. And some websites that you need to go to when being evaluated and things like that. The first thing, though, we're going to talk about, and I'm just going to go through explaining a little bit about TBOS to you and the difference between achievement and growth. That's the first thing that we want to look at. What's the difference between achievement and growth? What measures achievement and what measures growth? And that's what we're going to talk about. First off, on achievement is a student's performance at one single point in time. So when you give that test in the spring, that is that student's achievement. It's highly correlated with student demographics, and we'll talk about demographics in just a minute. And it compares a student's performance to a standard. Those standards that we all have to teach, it compares to that standard. That's what you have to teach it for that test that they take in the spring. It's critical to a student's post-secondary opportunities, what they make on those tests. Just like ACT. On the growth, that measures a student's growth across time or across years. You're not just looking at that one point in time. In TBOS with growth, you are looking at years of growth or years of achievement. It's not related to students' demographics. It has nothing to do with demographics. TBOS has nothing to do with demographics. Compares a student's performance to their own prior performance. Okay. Now, I will tell you that when we started looking at the new test, we are looking at the years. We're not comparing to the old test. We are comparing to the new test. Just the new test, plus what that child did, but not comparing the old to the new test. We're looking at what the child is doing at that point in time, how they did on that test, and how they did compared to other students across the state on that same test. Not comparing the old to the new test. So a lot of people get confused on that. It is critical to ensuring a student's future academic success. By measuring students' academic achievement and growth, schools and districts have a more comprehensive picture of how they are doing on their effectiveness on that student. Okay, so we get a bigger picture of that student's performance by looking at their achievement and looking at their growth. This is one way to differentiate between the two. You have achievement is like a snapshot of that academic performance because it's one test, one time during the year. Progress is that photo album, or growth, which is that photo album of those students, what they did the first year they were tested, the second year they were tested, and so on. Okay? Now let's talk about demographics for just a minute. There are 4 subgroups that we look at when we are looking at subgroups, and subgroups mean students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged, Black, Hispanic, Native American, which is one group in itself, and then we look at the English language learners. Now, in Claiborne County, we have in the past not had as many English language learners. You have to have at least 30 valid tests before that is counted in your subgroup. okay? So, but now the state has changed things up a little bit, and now you only have to have 10. If you have 10 in your school, those 10 will count on your accountability, okay? So that has changed just a little bit. Now, so that will change for us this year, I'm sure. There is something called the super subgroup. The super subgroup contains all 4 of those, okay? So suppose your school has no English language learners, but they have Black, Hispanic, Native American, and they have economically disadvantaged and students with disabilities. So they count all that together. So it doesn't matter if they don't have English language learners, they count that super subgroup altogether. But if a student is economically disadvantaged and a student with disabilities, they are not counted twice. They are only counted one time in that super subgroup, okay? So that's demographics. And do we look at demographics with achievement or growth? That was the other side. We look at demographics with achievement. It matters on that test in the spring, the demographics. With TVOS and growth, it does not. Okay, demographics do not play a part. All right. Then the next thing we have is assessment data that we look at. There are different types of assessment data, and I know you've probably all heard this before. There are formative and there are summative. Can anybody tell me the difference between the two? Formative and summative test assessments. Yes.
Formative assessment is assessment that goes throughout. It's usually not recorded as a grade most of the time. Whereas summative is things like going to be graded end of chapter tests, end of course tests sometimes.
Okay, so summative would be like a TCAP, or it would be a benchmark test if your district. Our district does study island benchmarks, and we do a benchmark 3 times a year, and that is could be summative. Could I also use that for formative? And if you think of formative, you think for the learning. That's how you want to remember. For the learning. Because we take whatever test it is, and really it could be a unit test. Then I'm going to look at that unit test and I'm going to see how did those students do. Do I need to go back and reteach that? Okay? So you would look at that as a formative test also. You can also, like our benchmark test, we use it to see what standards are the students still struggling with. Okay? And then we're going to go back and try to reteach those. All right? So districts use different things for their benchmark assessments. We used to use Discovery Education. Now we're into Study Out. But there's all kinds of ways to have assessment data. So you have, as it shows on here, you have daily quizzes, class projects. What would those be considered as? Formative or summative? If you had daily quizzes or class projects. What would you use that for? Formative, right. Okay. And then, of course, that TCAP test is going to be, or EOC is going to be summative. Could I also use that for some formative data? Could I use that TCAP? Because as a teacher, I'm going to look at how did my students do? What did they struggle with? And next year, I'm going to try to improve on that. We're going to look at some forms that we get back from the state, some reports that show us that how we can use that for the next year. The next thing are the benefits of TVOS. Well, how does it benefit us? We use it to monitor the growth of all groups of students from low achieving to high achieving, ensuring growth opportunities for all students. We measure student achievement. As a result, we look at how does that impact the student, how does that impact our teaching. And that's what you want to use it for. You want to use it to impact your teaching. Now, we look at this, and what we can do is we can gear our professional development toward that. We can also take and we can look at districts around us, and we can see, okay, we're not doing so well in chemistry. I'll just tell you, we're not doing well at all in chemistry. And so what we did this year was we looked at districts around us, and we looked at how they were performing in chemistry, and we sent our chemistry teachers to watch their chemistry teachers and see what are they doing different from us. And I think that's going to make an improvement in our chemistry scores for next year. But that's one way that you can use TVOS. And you can get to this information. Anybody can. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a little bit. You can differentiate instruction by looking at that and seeing what students, I can show you on TVOS how that you can look at the students that are performing low, medium, high. What are you teaching to? And I took that to our teachers this year. There's a pie graph on there, and it shows it on that pie graph with the different colors, because I like the colors. And the colors show you, okay, so if I'm blue, I'm doing a really good job, you know. And I'm doing a really good job with those students that are high achieving. But my students that are low achieving, I'm red. And that's not good, okay? So I can see right away. Then I can click on there, I can see who those students are. Does that help me group those students, or help that teacher that had them the year before or the next year coming up? It would help them, okay? It helps us to identify best practices and programs and meet the needs of our students. So what questions does TVOS answer? Did each group and subgroup, because you can also on TVOS, you can look at those subgroups of students and that made a year's worth of growth. And are they ready for that test that's coming up, okay? In 4 through 8, it's English, language arts, math, and science, and in end-of-course subjects, Algebra 1 or English 2 or whatever they're taking, okay? All right, some facts about TVOS. It measures student growth, not whether the student is proficient on the state assessment. For example, a student who's behind academically, they may show, even though they're very behind, they may show some progress. They've showed some growth, okay? When they took that test this year, they've showed some growth. Then you've got another student, they're really behind also, but they showed no growth. Which one did the teacher add value to? The first one, right? Because the first one is the one that showed the growth, all right? So you can have the teacher that added a lot of value to the first student's academic development and increased their likelihood of being proficient in 6th grade, and little value to the second student's academic development. TVOS allows educators to consider their students' achievement, their score on the end of the year assessment, as well as their growth in progress students make year to year. Now, here is the second fact that you're going to see. They always say those low achieving students are easier to show growth. You should be able to show growth with the low achieving student. Now, just because we don't get that student to proficient, can we still show growth with that student? And that's what they're telling us. Yes, we can. We can show growth with them, and that's what they want. And that's what the new accountability model is looking for you and for your school and for your district. Okay, so it gives an example of a school in Memphis in 2013-14. This school, they're very low achieving, and at Treadwell Middle School in Memphis, and they were in the top 20% in the state for growth in 7th and 8th grade math. So just because they're achieving low doesn't mean you can't show growth. Now here was always the hard part for me. This is the third one. High achieving students. Because to me, they were more difficult to show growth. But according to TVOS, you should be able to make growth with those high achieving students. Now what happens if you have, we're going to compare it to the height, your height. So a student that's in 2nd grade, and they're very tall for their age, okay? They're very tall for their age, but if that student doesn't grow between 2nd grade and 5th grade, are they still going to be taller than everybody else? Probably not. Because everybody else is growing, but they're not growing. So you've got a high achieving student in 2nd grade, but what if that student is not making any growth till they get to 5th grade? Then something's happened there, right? That student is going to they're going to start losing ground instead of gaining ground, okay? And this gives another example of Williamson County. If you've never heard of Williamson County, they are near Nashville, and they are very high, affluent county, and they have very, very high scores. But guess what they do? They also show high growth. They show that they are moving those students. So They're doing it all there in Williamson County. Here's how I like to think about it, and this made it simpler for me. Students don't always start at the same place at the beginning of the year. They're not all starting in low achieving, high achieving. They're all over the place, right? So they don't all start at the same place at the beginning of the racetrack. And here's an example. So if you look at student B is below proficient, look where they're starting. They're starting way back here behind the line, behind where the start line is. They're starting way back here. They're below proficient. To show growth for that student, they have to still make it all the way around the track, okay? Now, if they make it all the way around the track, and they have shown a year's worth of growth. If they make it back where they started from, they've shown a year's worth of growth. If they move farther than that, it shows growth, more growth for them, but it helps your growth score as a teacher, okay? Because they judge you on this, okay? The same goes for that advanced student, that student A right there. Look, they're past the starting line, okay? So if they're past the starting line, they're going to have to make it all the way back around and then try to move them farther. Well, if they're already up here, I'm telling you right now, I was in math classroom for 27 years. It is harder to do that. And I'm not trying to discourage you, I'm just saying that you are challenged because you have to challenge them, okay? So if they make it all the way around, then that is a year's worth of growth. If they make it farther, that's better, okay? All right, so here's your $2 summary right now. This is what I want you to do. I want you to take about 3 minutes, and I want you to describe for me what TBOS is and the difference between growth and achievement. But since I'm a math person, it's $2 and each word's worth 10 cents. So how many words that is, that's what you're going to do it in right now, okay? So if you've got pencil and paper, please do that right now. You've got about 3 minutes.
I'll be ahead of the game. Yeah, I can pull up all of them. Here you go, please. Did y'all get one? Yes. Okay, all right. Did everybody get one?
Okay, now I'm going to have some of you share out just about a minute. Sorry, we didn't. I'm
Growth is what? It measures, demographics is not counted in growth. TBOS is value average it's just
That's with race.
I need to change my words. What's
That wasn't on
All right, so let's go ahead, and I want some people to volunteer to share out. Give me your $2 summary of what is TBOS and what is the difference between, or the difference between growth and achievement. Yes.
A tracking system that compares individual student growth. Growth compares student to self over time. Achievement compares student to standard once.
Right, good. Somebody else? No change. Somebody else have one? Yes.
We have the TBOS as an assessment that shows student growth. Achievement tests determine proficiency, while growth tests measure progress made throughout the year.
Okay, but growth also measures over years,
Yes.
over time. Yes. Okay. Anyone else want to share? Okay. All right, so I want to show you some things, and I'm going to go into TBOS, and this is going to be for Claiborne County. Okay, so when you go log in with the teacher account, it'll be a little bit different. I have district access. So you go up to where it says reports, and you will be able to get to your reports and your school reports. But what we're going to look at right here is we're going to look at some district value added. I just want to show you what it looks like. And you may have seen it before, and that's good, and I want to show you some. You can get in here and you can look at every single district. That's how that you can look to see how you compare with other districts. So in Claiborne County, our 4th through 8th grade math, this is what it looks like for this past year, for 16-17, and also it shows you 2015, because TBOS goes over a 3-year period. We did not test in 15-16, or 16, we did test in 17. And so there are no scores there, so that causes us a little problem right there, but you can still look at how everything is done. Blue is good, you're showing really good growth. If you are red or pink, you are not showing growth. Green and light green, you are getting them practically back to where they started from. Okay, so that's showing some growth. So blue is what we're looking for. Red is not what we want. And this is 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. If you look down here at the NCEs, or the average achievement, across the state, it's always 50 right there, okay? Then, this is our district in 2015. Now, I have given you a sample document that is not our district, but I want, and I'm sorry that this kind of, it's hard to see, but I want you to look at it for just a minute, because I want to show you how this is done. If you look at this document up at the top, we're just tracking the 5th grade cohort of students. So what we do to track is we look back at the third grade. This fifth grade was in the third grade in 2015. And then they have a score of 52.1 in that blue box. Does everybody see it? We go diagonally to follow that cohort. So we now move, they did not have a test in fourth grade. This group did not. So we go to fifth grade, and their score is 46.1 in 2017 when they were in fifth grade. What happened? Did they show growth? No. Their growth declined. How much it declined gives you that standard error or that standard growth measure up there that you see at the top. You subtract those two. So if you look up there at fifth grade in 2017, you will see a negative 6.1, and it won't always equal out to be exact because of rounding. So, but that it's going to be very close to that. Okay. So that's fifth grade. Now look down at the next sixth grade. The sixth grade is marked by the red boxes at the bottom. So look at 2014, they were in third grade, 51.3. Then in fourth grade in 2015, what happened? 52.8. Did they show growth? Yes, they did. Well, so how much growth? Look up there at fourth grade. See the green? 1.7 is their standard growth measure. Then, that same group did not have a test in fifth grade. You moved to sixth grade, and they went to 43.2. Are they still showing growth at sixth grade? No. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to take, and I want you to find the seventh grade, and I want you to track their cohort. Right down there at that, use that bottom one down there. Figure out what would be the seventh grade cohort. And I know it's a little bit hard to see, do the best you can with that. And then we're going to talk about what's happening with the seventh grade. This is what a district has to look at. This is what a school has to look at. Yes.
So each score is basically, is it versus the rest of the state? Is that accurate? So it's versus the average. So theoretically, they could have still grown, just grown less than the rest of the state.
Okay, so seventh grade. When they were in the fourth grade in 2014, they were 54.7. When they were in the fifth grade in 2015, they were 50.8. Then they didn't have a test in sixth grade, so in seventh grade they were 41.2. What is happening in that seventh grade? Their scores are decreasing, and if I am the administrator at that school or at the district level, then I'm going to be looking to see what's going on in that seventh grade. What's happening with that seventh grade? Because they keep decreasing. So if they keep decreasing, by the time they're in eighth grade, they're already behind. So if I'm an eighth grade teacher, I've got my work cut out for me in order to make them show growth, okay? And they're already behind, so it's going to be hard. It's harder to do, but it can be done. Okay? Now, I want to show you a couple more reports that you can also look at. We're going to look at the diagnostic report for fifth grade. it gives you a histogram. And if you'll notice right here where it says on this side, the achievement groups, it gives you how many were in the lowest group. And it gives you who they are. So we had 81 students in the lowest group. In the second group, we had 59 students. The middle group, 47. And in the fourth group, which is that fourth quintile, there's 37. And then in the highest group, there's 26. What do we need to work on? We're having trouble here, right? So let's look at the pie graph. To me, it just is easier to see. So we're showing some growth with all the groups except for who? We're showing a little bit of growth with all these students, but which one? The highest group of students. We have shown some growth with everybody else, but we are not challenging in 5th grade that group of students. Now, you can also look at the subgroup. So if you wanted to look and see how you were doing with those economically disadvantaged students, because this is all students included in this one. But if you want to see how you are doing with those economically disadvantaged or students with disabilities, you're going to click on subgroups and then you're going to look at those, okay? Do you have a question about any of that? There are several other reports that you can look at, and there will be, when you become a teacher, or if you already are a teacher, you know you can already look at that, okay? All right, now there's another report that I want to show you, and it's called Custom Student Reports. Now this is where it gets right down to your classroom, to your students, okay? Now I'm going to show you a couple students that are in Claiborne County. I'm allowed to because they're my grandchildren, okay? So you get to see them. And I've got 2 grandsons. They go to Powell Valley Elementary, and those grandsons are on two different sides there, 2 different spectrums. They're not far from each other, but I had one grandson that did not have his teachers in, and this makes a difference, his teachers in 2nd and 3rd. One of the teachers he had twice were not very effective. Do you know what happens then? If you don't have an effective teacher, then it's harder for you to show growth. It's harder for you to make achievement. So he's had several years of not having an effective teacher. So this does something to a child if they don't have an effective teacher. And I want to show you how that impacts a child. You can go in and name your own report and create your report. I already have some right here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to add a student. And when I get to here, what I'm going to do is I am going to go to the bottom, and here's the important part if you want to get to your students that you have. You go down here to test. I'm going to 3-8. You can go to EOC, or if you're teaching grade 2 and your district test grade 2. Then here, my first grandson that has the lower scores is in 5th grade, and I'm just going to choose on track because the levels now, instead of being proficient and advanced, it is on track and mastered. Okay, so that's what they call it now instead of, they just changed the names. That's what we did. So they have below, approaching, on track, and mastered. And I'm going to go to on track in 5th grade. Here's the important part. You leave 0 where it says lower percent. In upper percent, you're going to put 100. And then submit. Okay, I'm going to go back for just a second because I forgot to choose the school. Now this will bring up his class, and I am going to click on what his projection is, okay? So this is my grandson, and he's in 5th grade, and this is his math score. So if you will look here, and you go over this right here, and it will tell you, he was at Powell Valley, and this is when he took the test in kindergarten. he's not so bad in kindergarten, right? Then he took it again in first grade. This was the SAT 10. He did pretty good. He went even up farther when he was in first grade, okay? He didn't have a test in second. He didn't have a test in third. He had a test last year in fourth, okay? So when he took that test in fourth, remember he had 2 years of teachers that were not effective. So what happened? So right here is what happened. His percentile became 70. So because he had that big decline right there, his projection now is to be at 64% on his math test. This year, I do not expect him at all. He has a wonderful teacher. She does an excellent job. I do not expect him at all to be at 64%. But I can look at this right here and I can see where he was at. Where do I need to get this child in order for him to show growth? Just to show growth, where do I need to get him? It's not the projection. I have to get him back to 70. He's got to make a 70 to show growth. To show growth, he has to get back to 70. His projection is that he's going to decline again this year. I don't feel at all that he's going to. I feel he's going to do much better than that, okay? But that's what you have to look at. So I'm looking at that child and I know I've got to get him 70 or above on that test in order for him to show growth for the upcoming year. Now, I'm going to go back. And this time, I'm going to show you my grandson that's in 8th grade. He's always, and I'm not bragging, he's just always been an advanced student. And, of course, I can brag because I'm his grandmother. But anyway, he is an advanced student. So, but I'm going to go to On Track. And I'm going to pull up his scores. Okay, so this is his scores. So we start out with 2nd grade. He took a SAT 10 test in 2nd grade, and he was way up here, right? Then he went up again in 3rd grade. Drops a little bit in 4th. Then he drops a little bit in 5th, quite a bit. But then he didn't take a test in 6th grade because we didn't have it that year. In 7th, he shoots up there again, okay? So his score is at 91. But he's only projected to score 81. Why do you think that they would project him to just score 81?
Because of the drop.
Because of his trend line. That is exactly right. Because of that drop, they're expecting him to drop again. Okay? But look at what this teacher has to do. He's at a 91 percentile. She has got to make him show growth, get back to 91. It's very hard to do that. It's very hard, but it can be done. Okay, so if she gets him back to 91 or above, then he has shown growth, and hopefully he'll get back to that spot. Okay, so his teaching experience was a little bit different. He had different teachers than the other. It makes a difference. Your job is so important to a child, and I think sometimes we don't realize how important, and this shows you. Okay, this lets you know. If you've got a good, effective teacher all the way through, you're going to keep advancing, right? But if you don't have, it does something. It does something to your growth of academics, okay? Among other things. All right, so that's called the Custom Student Report, and you will be able to get to that and see all your students and see what the projections are. And this is a good thing to look at the beginning of the year. Okay, I see this student, I see how they did last year. Here's where I've got to start, here's where I've got to go to, and it will help you as far as in your classroom. It can also help you group your students, okay? So when you get in that classroom, you know who to group and what they need, okay? All right. All right, and so that's the one we just did. And now I want to look for just a minute, and I want to tell you about our new platform. This is reports, and this is different from the TVOS. This is achievement, okay? So we have moved to Questar in our state of Tennessee. Questar, we used to have Pearson, it was a nice neat package. Pearson had everything all on one page. You just go right there, find your reports, and it was all great. Questar is different. Questar, you go to one platform, then you click on reports, and it takes you to another platform, which is called Service Point. When you get into Service Point, it's a little bit more difficult, because you could pull it up one day and it'll be there, and then pull it up again, and you can't find it until you log out and you go back in again. Not that I want to be downing the state or anything, but that's what happens sometimes. Our new reports, though, are good. They're very good. They give us a lot more information than what we've had in the past, and they're very helpful. They provide detailed and clear information for families, students, teachers, RTI, supervisors, principals, assistant principals, whoever's working on your data, okay? We talked about the performance levels. They are mastered, on track, approaching, or below. The score reports show how a student's performance compared with other students in their school district and state on that same test. So what we're going to do now is, I have some sticky notes here, and I have some score reports. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a group of people, because I don't have enough for everybody, but I'm going to give a group of people some score reports, and you are going to first go through these score reports, and I want you to take a sticky note. And I want you, because I'm going to take these back up when you're done, okay? I want you to stick the sticky note on there and tell me who you think should see this report. Who should get this report? Who should see this report? Then we're going to talk about why, okay? So I'm going to give you some sticky notes and give you some of these reports to look at. Just go ahead and talk about them for a few minutes and decide who should get these reports. And
Is that the one mine? Yeah, it was in mine. It was in sometimes we can do their project, I guess for breakfast. This would probably this shows the school summary. This shows the school summary.
Because they go to different people. Different people. And some people should have more than one.
This is because it's so easy for them to make this is actually that pass out to each. And this could go to income card. Any administration.
Could have been.
Yeah, just similar.
This stuff always everybody has like their own way of doing it. Different things I've seen I've seen some people really drive in certain jump programs and other ones that I think it's relative to the person and their body and what they need. Depends on what their body needs in order to develop. Video of he's talking. But I mean, he's like famous. And he works with like, he used to work with the best basketball teams in the country. Washington, D.C. So he has a real good resume. And he works with Mark Hill folks until 16. Subsidized, she can't
So what?
Hey, the ale house. The house.
Okay, so, is everybody about finished? All right, so we're going to go ahead and go through these. If you look at that first report right there, we know that that's the individual student report. And that report is going to go to who? Parents. The parents. The parents are going to look at that. When the parents look at this, a lot of parents look at this, they're only going to be looking at one thing. Where's my student compared to the district, the state, the school? They're going to look at that pretty bar graph with all the colors at the top. A lot of parents. Some parents will look on down, but the important part of this is the back page. So, is it just the parents that needs to look at this? Why would a teacher want to look at this? information. Look at what it tells you right away, just by glancing at it. And we're going to talk about what the arrows mean. But this right here shows you that this student right away has lost ground or needs more assistance in 2 areas. So if I'm a teacher, who needs this? The previous teacher and the current teacher, okay? Because if I am the teacher now of that student, I want to look at that. What did they not do well in last year? Well, this student didn't do so well if you look at reading literature and you look at writing, focus, and organization. I know that student's already got a gap there that I'm going to have to help him with, okay? So that tells me a lot right there just by looking at that. It drills it on down to what exactly that student needs help with. Also, look at this right here. This gives you the strengths, the areas for improvement, and even tells you next steps. So I know that the previous teacher needs to look at that, the current teacher needs to look at that. What other person in your building would also benefit from that? I don't know if everybody has them or not, but your intervention teacher, your RTI person, wouldn't that be helpful to them to look at that individual student level? I want to know my students coming into me where they're at and how they're achieving and what are the gaps that I need to work on with each student. So this report is very helpful for the parent, the student, the teacher, and the previous teacher, the current teacher, and RTI. And it's sad to say that on the strength side, there are several students that say this student needs to work on strengths. So, I mean, that's sad to say, but we have that. So, next thing we want to look at is the class roster. And who would this benefit?
Teacher.
The teacher. Which teacher?
Whose class is this?
Current teacher. Could the previous teacher look at that also? Did they help? Yes. Yes. I want to show you something on this report that you will hear and that will help you. It is called bubble students. Bubble students are the students that are right on the bubble. If they had just got one more question right, they would have moved to the next level. So we've got 4 levels here. We want them to be in 4, but they're in 3, 2, and 1 also, okay? But I don't want them in 1, I don't want them in 2, I want them to be in 3 and 4, because that means they are on track and master. So what I look at is how many questions was that student away from getting to that next level? Can I possibly move that student? Just a couple questions and get them to that next level. You're going to hear that word, bubble students. We talk about it a lot. And we want to be able to move those students to the next level. If we do, we're going to be showing growth. If they show improvement. So here we go. Here's the arrows. If the arrows go up, the student earned more points than the average student for the minimum on-track score. So on-track means proficient, right? If the arrow's going across, it's similar, they earn comparable points to the student that was on track. If the arrow is pointing down, we really want to be concerned with this, they earn less points than the average student that met the minimum on-track score. So that gives us information right there. We can look at every single student and see how they perform. We can see how the state did, the district, the school, and the class rate, our class rate. It also breaks it down into different domains and tells us what we need to work on, okay? And that's just another one in Algebra 2. Okay, this report right here, who is this most helpful to? The teacher, exactly right. This is going to be most helpful to the teacher. Now, I want to explain this report to you because this is going to be your best friend right here, okay? You've got a set of standards that you have to teach. No matter where you're teaching, what grade level, you've got a set of standards. This is Algebra 2 right here that we're looking at. This is a sample, so it's not accurate. It's a sample, okay? In Algebra 2, in that first column, it tells you what the standard is. Then in the second column, it tells you the number of tested items for that standard. It tells you how many items were tested on that standard. The first thing I want to do, and I don't know if you all have heard of blueprints before, but the state puts out a set of blueprints for each content area. That blueprint gives you a guide of what's going to be on that test and what the percentages are and about how many questions will be covered on that. So when I look at this right here, I want to look at that blueprint and I want to compare the two. Is the state telling me the truth? You know, did they actually do that many questions? Was it actually that percentage? And of course I got very interested in it and I did pull out. Well, I did notice that maybe there were a couple more questions, what they said, you know, whatever. But you want to look at that and see. Then the next part is, how much is that? The third column. How many score points am I going to get for the standards that were tested? So in that first one, I had 2 items that were tested over that standard. It was worth 2 points. So probably 1 point for each item, definitely. But then I go down to this standard right here. I have 3 tested items and I have 4 score points for those 3 tested items. Okay? That's very important to look at because I want to know how many items are being tested and what the points are worth for those items. Now, on the next part where it says score points possible for your class, to get that, and it doesn't work out on this sheet because this is just a sample, they look at the number of students in your class. They multiply it by this third column right here. And that gives you your possible score points. Does everybody get that? Everybody get that? Any questions? Okay. Then they give the score points that they actually earned in your class. So you've got the ones that are possible. How many did your class earn for that standard? Then it gives you your percentage of the points earned by your class, the school, the district, and the state. So you can compare and see how well that you did against the district and the state. Okay? Does everybody see how that's going to help you? Definitely help you. Because if I see students, and what I would want to do with this, and we've talked about it this year already, is we want to take 3 of those, find 3 of those standards that I did really well with. I did really good with those 3 standards. And what did I do that made that standard higher or made them achieve higher on that standard? Then I'm going to find 3 standards I didn't do so well on those. Why? What was the difference? Can I take what I did really well with those others and transfer it over to the ones I didn't do so well on? Okay? So that's what you want to look at. All right? And I think that could be helpful information. The class roster, of course, we talked about who's going to look at that and who would need to look at that. We also have another report that I put in there that's called the school summary report. Who do you think should look at this one? The school summary. Administration, somebody yes. Administration should look at this. You could also look at this as a teacher, I feel like, because you can look at this right here and you can see the percentage of points earned out of the possible points and how you did against the system and the state. How did your school do against the system and the state? So the district would look at this report and and this is the back of that report. This lists the student names, and this is kind of deceiving because this report's got 99s and 100s everywhere. But if it's just listing a student's name, wherever that student failed will be on that report. If they just fell in the first column there, there won't be any other numbers out there on level 2, 3, and 4 if they're in level 1, okay? So if they're in level 4, they're not going to have any numbers in level 3, 2, and 1, and it'll tell you their score, the number and their score. School leaders will receive this report, which will provide a building level perspective on how students perform. Okay, so now let's look at teacher evaluation, because this is going to be important, very important to you. This is the most recent model that I have out. And if you will look at this, qualitative is 50%. Qualitative is 50%. That is your evaluation from your administration. Okay?
it counts 50%. I don't know what year you all are going out, but I'm assuming 18, 19, maybe some of you will be going out in 18, 19. This is what they're going to be looking at. TVOS is going to count 35%. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Showing growth. That's why they want to explain it to you. That's why you need to know it. It's going to count 35% whether you show growth with those students. The student will you will either make a 1 to a 5. If you make a 1, the students have not shown growth. If you make a 2, they have not shown growth. You want to do 3 or better. 4 and 5s are what you're looking for, okay? 3, you're getting them back where they started from, but you're not moving them on, okay? So you want to do 4 or 5 to really show growth. That's what you want on your TVOS. And that's going to be 35% of your evaluation score. And I have some papers up here that I can give to you if you want. It has some questions and answers that they have put out, the state of Tennessee has put out. And I don't have enough for everybody, but I have some up here if you all want those. And it will tell you how they figured. It has been messed up, kind of, because of they've had to count on 3rd and 4th grade. They had to count years previous and all that because of the missed test, because we didn't take a test. But by the time we get to 18, 19, it will count 35% of your score. All right, now I want to show you some websites that I want that you need, and like I said, you don't have to write these down. You can have this PowerPoint, and it'll take you right to it. But this is the team website. This will be very important to you. You will get login credentials when you start teaching, and you'll be able to log into your homepage. It gives you what I just showed you right here, and it gives you some guidance on different things. So this is a very good website that's going to help you out to show you some things that you will have to log into and find out on this website. Then we go to the next one is T-Encompass. T-Encompass will tell you all about your license, how to get your license. Then you'll get a login and you can see everything in there, your profile, what your license number is. It shows you everything about that. T-Encompass, very, very good website that you will need to know about. Okay. The next website that I want to show you, the state of Tennessee this year has come up with this website, and this houses all the important information that you really need to know. And a lot of people, I went across the district this year telling our teachers about this because they just came out with it. This gives an assessment overview of what's coming up, what the test is going to look like. It gives administration guide, different things like that on assessment. Then it gives training and resources for your test coordinator. This is what I talked about a while ago. This is your blueprints. And I'm going to show you some of the blueprints. We'll look at 6 through 8 math. And in this will show you your calculator policy, and that's very important for you to know before the test. It tells you how many subparts are on that test, how many minutes, and about how many items will be in each part. They don't tell you exactly. There's about how many. There are 3 subparts. 2 of those you can use a calculator in 6 through 8 math. Then, here is 6th grade right here. It gives you the domains, number relationships, ratios, and rates, expressions and equations, geometry, and problem solving. Where are most of my questions going to focus? In 6th grade.
Number relationships.
Number and relationships. Because you see that there will be 17 to 21 score points. There will be 14 to 19 items there. Where do I want to focus my time? I want to make sure that I'm getting number and relationships covered. I want to cover everything because I've got to. But you want to make sure those students know number relationships. It even gives me the standards that I need to work on in 6th grade. So this blueprint is very, very important to you in your classroom. It has science, social studies, ELA, second grade. It has all those. It has the rubrics for the writing portion in ELA also. Those will be very, very important to you. I'm sorry if sometimes I leave out ELA, it's not my thing, so I do sometimes leave that out. The next thing is item releases. These are the things that they have released from, these are the items, the questions they have released from last year's test. Wow. We have these questions. They released them from last year. I can go to those questions and I can use those. I can go over those every day where my students are understanding and getting conceptual understanding of that question and how it's worded. Because let me tell you, you may think your students know all there is to know, but then they throw in a word that your students have never seen before, and they'll miss that one every time. So you want to see how many ways that it could be worded, and that's what you want to go through with when you're teaching it. It goes over fall testing, spring testing. We just got through taking standalone field tests. The events that are coming up, they have the item writer workshops that are coming up again. But I want to show you this. What they did at the last item writer workshop was they took our standards in Tennessee and they put what the student should know at each of the levels. If your student is a level 1, this is all they're going to know right here, okay? If they are a level 4, they need to know this right here, and here's what you need to focus on. Wow, what a document. You know, and they're going to try to do this for everything. But this is something we've never had before. If I'm a teacher in the classroom, I'm just elated with this right here, because this is something that's really going to be helpful to the teachers in the classroom. Math is all they have so far, and they don't have all of it done. They're going to be working on it this summer to finish it up. So hopefully that will be forthcoming. Visibility tool is something that testing coordinators use, and there are different other items here. The classroom assessment builder, especially if you are doing 5 through 8 or high school, this will be important to you because this is online information. If you are 3 and 4, you can also use this because it has questions in there, but this is an online practice, okay? And this is online that can help your students. So when you get in that classroom, you definitely want to use that. So here I've got item release, I've got the classroom assessment builder, I have also got practice text. So I want to use all those. I want to use them all. I want to use them all year because those questions could be used different ways. They could be worded different ways. And I want my students to see every single way that could be worded. Next era, of course, is where we went to Questar that we saw reports and all that. Scoring and reports. This is another area that I showed our teachers. This showed the cut scores that they used for last year's test. So this is helpful to me because I can see that scale score. I can see the raw score, how many questions they got correct, and the scale score that goes with that, and what level did they fall in. So those cut scores are very helpful also. So this is just a wealth of information for you when you are looking through and trying to find things to help you out. All this stuff, there's a lot of teachers that come in and they're like, boy, I wish I'd known, you know. And someone doesn't always sit you down and say, you need to know all this stuff, unless you have a really good partner teacher that you're working with. Okay? All right, just a couple more websites that I want to show you. On this next one, this is the Tennessee Department of Education. And this is what it pulls up if you Google Tennessee Department of Education. When you go over here to top links, you want to scroll down, and of course you can get to your standards here. They're there for you. And you can also go to the report card. So we're going to go to the report card, and I want to show you what you can look at. You can look at the new version, the new redesigned report card pages, and I'll show you what that looks like. This is for the state of Tennessee that it brings up first. And it looks like this. So it gives you the state of Tennessee, how many schools, enrollment, economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities. It gives you all that information. That's the profile information. I can also pick my district. You can look at any district you want to, whatever district that you want to. They're all there now for last year's test. So you can look at that. This is my district right here. This is our percentages, the number of teachers, the number of students with disabilities, and so on. This is their percentages. You can also look at our academic snapshot, our attendance, graduation rate, our ACT composite. You can look at all of that on this. But the other thing I want to look at is I want to look at the old report card. I want to show you the old one and what it looks like, because it gives you a wealth of information also. So this is the state of Tennessee. If you will notice over here, this shows you the demographics, some of the demographics. It gives you all the information and how much even that you're spending on students. Then down here, it gives you what the academic information. It gives you our TVOS, or it gives you graduation rate, it gives you ACT. When you drill down into your district, then it will also give you your TVOS levels. When it brings up your district, and you can look at every single district. Of course, I'm not proud of this. We're working very hard to improve that, but this is what we are at this point. So we're hoping that will improve over this year. But it gives us our ACT, it gives us our graduation rate, it gives us our scores on every subject, and it shows you proficient, advanced, below, and approaching on those. So any of this, and you can look at any district that you want to. I can even drill down to a school, look at the school level, and it will give me all the information on that school. You can do this. You don't need to log in a password. You can go to any of these. So I'm telling you right now, if you have a class and they want you to look up demographics for a district, here's where you find it. Go to the State Department of Tennessee, go to report card, there it is. Okay? Do you have any questions about that? There are other tabs on here, but I will tell you that some of these tabs are not going to show up. Like we have one school that's called T&T, it's Tazewell, New Tazewell Elementary. They are a K-4 school, and since they did not test, they do not have any previous test history, so they do not have TVOS. Okay? To have TVOS, you must have previous test history. So those students missed the test in third and missed the test in fourth. So that school does not have TVOS this year. We have two schools like that. All right? So I have a question about that. Okay, one more website. And really, this is a website that you can send parents to. This is TM Ready website, and this is all about the test. So you can go in there and you can find out all about the third grade test. This is what it looks like. It's called a one-pager, and it tells you English, math, science, and social studies all in one stop right there. Okay? And it gives you some answers to some questions. It's really helpful for parents to know this. It also lists the academic standards, so you can go look at the standards. It shows the spreadsheets for the state, and you can look at the states, but you can also find that on the report card. So, does anybody have any questions? That's basically all I have for you. I have put my email address on here. You're welcome to email me at any time. I will give this to Ms. Sue England, and she will email it out to you if you want it. Okay.
Thank you very much.